Maclunky.
Welcome to Round 1 Swiss of the Flipside Gaming Planetary Qualifier, brought to you by Maclunky Gaming. Starting us off, we have Nikki M facing off with PhilVH. Joining us with expert commentary are Tower number 9 and Liz. Enjoy the match.
On one side and Quinlan Tarkintown on the other.
Sounds good. So yeah, on the left we have Nick playing Qi'ra ECL, and on the right we have Phil on that Quinlan Tarkintown, and yeah, we're gonna get right into it shortly.
So we got some blue-green
Lego
villain
Pizza says
control.
easily the best TCG community I have been part of. Yeah, I think I played several of Fantasy Flight's living card games before playing this, and those games were often notable because they had a more positive and generally nicer feeling community than like Magic the Gathering or something like that. And I'm happy to say that it seems like the general positivity and good vibes of FFG games have continued into this one, even though it's a TCG and not an LCG.
Yeah, I'm also really thrilled about that because that educational attitude from the upper level players is really helpful, getting more casual people into the game. And like, it was like the K Milky was saying earlier, when you have people willing to give feedback, not criticism, not, insults, but feedback about one's gameplay, that's really positive for the community as a whole. And it's that. Go ahead.
By the way, I just wanted to say big shout out to Lego Pizza. Good to have you in the chat. If you guys caught last week's stream, Lego Pizza had some sick Han Green gameplay. There were some very cool moves in that event, and good to have you here in chat.
So we got some blue-green villain control versus the Quinlan Tarkintown kind of more aggressive style. Could be playing hand disruption as well.
Yeah.
Likely
And
playing
Jake
Spark.
Peterson points out all 6 aspects are in play.
Ooh, yes.
And it's true, yeah. We have blue-green villain versus red-yellow heroism.
Should be a spicy first matchup here.
All right. Looks like they are shuffled up, and we are gonna see what's going on with these opening hands. Looks like Nick is gonna be keeping, but we might see a Hylabon Enforcer there. Oh, but he's thinking it over again, reconsidering those resource choices.
I see an Inferno
Phil, on the
4,
other hand, I
perhaps.
believe, is shuffling his deck for the mulligan. Eagle12727 says, debating missing my flight to stay in the airport lounge to watch this stream. Hopefully the wife is not also watching. That's interesting.
Whoa, okay.
I think we're going to have a hype stream today, Eagle One, but I'm not sure that I would miss the flight for it. You can always watch back the VOD if you want.
How expensive is the airplane Wi-Fi, and can it handle 720p?
I have not watched a stream before on airport Wi-Fi, and I do find myself, or airplane in-flight Wi-Fi, I do find myself skeptical. Here we go, though. Here's the game.
Yeah, so we got a Hylabon coming down, and then Qi'ra pinging it for 2, giving it the shield. Phil, the Quinlan player, giving out a A-wing into the space arena.
Yeah, and that Hylabon Enforcer is an interesting unit. It is 1 for a 1/4 with grit, which seems really good, but it does have a built-in bounty, allowing the opponent to draw a card when it is defeated. However, it's a nice fit here with Qi'ra because the fact that it costs 1 means you can play it and still use Kira's ability to do the damage and shield. And doing that damage also enables its grit. So that is a 3/2 shielded on the first turn for Nick. Pretty good start.
It'll kill most things that you play early in the ground arena, and that shield makes it resistant to Quinlan ping.
Yeah, and another thing that makes it resilient to Quinlan ping is that it is a 1-cost unit. You know, in
Right.
a lot of situations, Quinlan's ping is good when both players are playing on curve. And if you play a 1-cost instead of a 2-cost, that can be a way to get around his ability. Now, what exactly is going on here?
Yeah, maybe they have a judge call? I'm not sure. They've paused
Maybe.
the game. Oh, they're waiting on the round to officially start. Okay.
Oh, we may have jumped the gun a little bit on the we may have jumped the gun a little bit on this round. Um, I was wondering for a moment if Phil was considering using Tarkintown to knock the shield off. That's not something that I would necessarily do, but it is conceivably a play you could make.
Super Rider O pointing out that the shield also stops the Tarkintown.
Yeah, I mean, you could still use it to remove the shield, but it would prevent the unit from being killed. I believe this turn Phil plays out a Alliance X-Wing. And I believe that card that we're getting a little bit of glare on the top was a super laser technician from Nick. Both players also swinging on in for 3 damage to the opposing base. Phil has the Green Squadron A-Wing, which has 1 power but has Raid 2 for +2 power on attack, while Nick has that Hylabon Enforcer for 1 base power but 2 extra power from Grit.
Another X-Wing coming out for Phil, so Phil going wide in space,
Phil
threatening
has
that
not yet
ECL
hit a
base.
single Quinlan ping. That's a little unfortunate.
Also dodging the super laser tech by going space
Yeah,
only.
but as a Qi'ra deck, Nick can use Kira's ability to kill his own super laser technician to activate that if he wants to go that route.
Damage beginning to
Both
stack up
sides
here.
sort of swinging past each other.
He's gonna
Yeah,
go ahead
and
and do what
and
you said.
yep, Kira kills the super laser technician with her ability, and when defeated, it becomes a readied resource. Then Phil plays, I believe that's Anakin's interceptor. Power of the Dark Side lands, but Phil has quite a few units to choose from, none of which cost more than the Power of the Dark Side did.
Right, he'll just grab the X-Wing and kill it off.
Yep.
Qi'ra deploys. So that's gonna put damage on everything.
Yeah, and an
It's only
awkward twist, deploying Kira actually heals the Hylobon Enforcer and knocks the shield off, which means that in a sense that unit's actually been depowered because grit no longer applies.
yeah, that is a strange sequence there.
This would be a very good time for Nick to pull an overwhelming barrage. He would be able to fire it off with Kira for 6 damage, which would be enough to do 2 damage to each of those fighters and wipe them all out. But
Yeah,
I don't
OB
think I
here.
saw one in his hand.
Yeah, OB is clutch at this moment, but it's not in his hand.
Honestly, OB is clutch in a lot of moments.
Yeah. But I mean it gets you over the hump usually when you're, a little bit behind on board and then suddenly it's like a big stabilizer.
Let's see if Phil can actually hit a Quinlan ping sometime this game.
Yeah, Quinlan ping not used. ECL coming out. ECL devastating
Oh,
gunship, very nice. Okay.
that is a strong play.
So he kills
Devastating.
he go ahead. He kills he gets to enter the board, right, to kill the 2 health remaining ships. Then he
Yep.
ECLs into another ship
Yeah.
to
So that
to
devastating
kill it off.
gunship takes out 2 of Phil's fighters in one move, one with the ambush and one with the when played. Phil is definitely feeling like he's pretty behind right now.
Absolutely. How the
Quinlan can take
turntables.
this turn, I believe, but he doesn't really have a great situation because Kira can potentially hit Quinlan, give him 4 damage, taking 3 back, and then she can potentially swing for 7 in the future.
Ooh, Valiant Assault Ship coming out. It's got its ability enabled, so it is a 5/4
Yeah,
in
that's a
space.
way to maybe turn the tables a bit. For Phil to maybe turn the tables a bit on Nick in terms of that ramp now making the Valiant Assault Ship potentially able to get this buff going. Now, Endless, if you're Phil, are you going to use Tarkintown this turn on that devastating gunship?
I mean, why not, right? That's only 3 HP left.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for I think this is a good opportunity for Phil, but we'll see if he takes it.
There it
Yeah,
goes.
there we go.
Fires it off. Gives rid of the gunship.
Now it looks like
Gunship
there's
goes.
14 damage on Nick's base, and I believe it's 16 damage here on Phil's base.
Oh, but
So
here we
not
just saw
a
Nick
lot
draw
of
an OB.
HP left for each. Sorry, what was that, Endless?
We just saw Nick draw an OB.
Ooh.
Got overwhelming barrage in his hand now.
Yeah, that's I was saying earlier it could be quite strong last turn. I think it will also be quite strong this turn. He could potentially play it, put it on Qi'ra, 6 damage. What do you think, Endless? Probably use that to just take out both the ships,
Yeah,
and
I
then
would kill the ships.
the attack buff also means you can then send Qi'ra and the Hylobond Enforcer into Quinlan to kill him, or honestly, you can just push more damage to the base.
Let me see if I can. That counters like 16, so he's got 9 life left. Or is that life
Yeah,
remaining or life total?
9 HP remaining, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I would
There's the
just push to
overwhelming
base
barrage.
Kira.
I
Yeah,
think you
so
take out the spaceships and then you have Qi'ra swing for the base.
yeah,
Yep.
you cleanly kill both spaceships, then you swing base
Let's
for
see if Phil has a response or some way to prevent that.
swing base for 6, and then maybe find something else to do.
A Cunning Heroism deck does have a lot of potential exhausts it could use in this situation. We could see Leia Defiant Princess, Bamboozle,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure if Phil has one of those options.
That a
Surprise
surprise strike.
strike to the base. 5 HP left on Nick's base. Ooh, this is an interesting scenario now.
Right, so
If
he's within. If he has another pump, right, he's in striking distance of lethal. He doesn't have
right,
lethal on
so
board, but he's threatening a pump like a hot shot or some other play.
yeah, there are a lot of cards that Phil could have that would allow Quinlan to take out Nick's base. Is Nick going to try and take out Quinlan here? No, he's going for the base as well.
He's behind on tempo
22 damage.
though.
Does Nick have a pump here? I don't think so.
No,
Blue
I'm certain
green
he
is
doesn't.
not the blue green villain has a lot of things going for it, but it is not necessarily the aspect combo that has a lot of pumps. Oh, but he does have a Pike Sentinel.
That's
That
a
means
problem.
that even if Phil does have a pump, he's not going to get in unless there is that one +2 power and saboteur card, but it looks like he doesn't have it and is going to scoop it up.
Yeah, the Pike Sentinel was the death knell there. He could not do anything unless he had breaking in.
Breaking in, yeah.
Yeah, breaking in was the saboteur +2, but he needed that specific card. Otherwise, he was dead, and I think he just scooped it up, knowing that.
Yeah, I think more likely than not, Phil did have another buff, but that Sentinel, like you said, Endless, was the death knell. Very interesting game, and it ended up being quite fast. I think that Qi'ra may be a more control-oriented deck. I think typically she's thought of as a soft control deck, but she does have the ability to turn the corner pretty fast and start putting damage out on the opponent, especially if you can ramp up and get Qi'ra to hit the field quickly.
Yeah, Kira deploy into ECL gunship into overwhelming barrage, I believe was the sequence there, which cleared out space pretty efficiently.
Caleb in chat says, big fan of the late turn Pike play. Well done. Yeah, I thought that was a smooth move by Nick.
I really enjoy Pike Sentinel. I think it's an underrated card. And late game, you just play the Sentinel. It's like, oh, now because I'm behind on tempo and you have a Sentinel, I just can't win anymore in these low health situations.
Super Rider O asks, why no use Hyperspace Kira? I believe that is a Hyperspace Kira. I think both players are using the Hyperspace version of those leaders. And I believe Hyperspace versions of their bases as well. Although maybe that's a normal Tarkintown actually. I can't quite tell, but I'm pretty sure it's a Hyperspace ECL.
Yeah, it's a hyperspace ECL. I think the Tarkintown. I think the Tarkintown is hyperspace as well.
Cool. Super Rider O corrects that and says showcase. You know, I'll be real. There are some leaders where I think the hyperspace version looks better than the showcase. That's just my opinion. I remember back in the set one days, I was playing some Iden, and one of my local stores had a showcase Iden on in the display case, and also a hyperspace Iden, and I ended up picking up the hyperspace one because I actually like that art more. Of course, the fact that it was probably 10 times cheaper, or actually more than 10 times cheaper, didn't hurt.
Yeah, a couple $100 I think for an Iden showcase right now.
Yeah, it might have been like a $2 card versus a $200 card or something.
Yeah.
So the fact that my art preference ended up also being easy on my wallet there. I'll say that.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
feel
they're
you on that
shuffling
one.
on up.
I grabbed some Emperor Palpatine units the other day, and there was a hyperspace one on top, and I was like, "Oh, these must be hyperspace." Like, no, there were two normal treatments hiding behind it. So I was like, "Oh, I'll just get the normals."
Yeah. I'm not I know some people have, full hyperfoil decks or whatever. I think the hyperspace treatments look really good, but I have a lot of just normal treatments of cards, and you don't need the you don't need the fanciest cards ever. One thing that I like about this game actually is that the really crazily rare stuff has been reserved for fancy treatments of cards that also have a more accessible version available. I think that can strike a good balance between having those high-end cards available for the collectors, but also making gameplay not gated behind incredibly rare pieces.
Right, it makes it more accessible, which is really important. I mean, it's important to get a broad range of people to, play in these events, right? They're not just reserved for the folks that, have deep pockets.
Yeah. I played I at one time played a game called Flesh and Blood TCG that did not
Hmm.
necessarily have that. Like, imagine if showcases had unique gameplay text, and that would be a state of affairs that more or less existed in Fab. It was a little different because they weren't like the most powerful cards ever. It was usually like somewhat marginal, but some of them were like the card that you would want to put in your deck, at least for a certain deck, and it would be like, oh yeah, this card costs $250, and there's no other way to get this gameplay effect. It was not the hypest thing in the world.
Oof. Yeah.
I remember there was an interview with someone who had won I believe he won a somewhat major tournament in New Zealand, which was one of the most competitive regions in that game. And there was an interview where someone was like, why didn't you run Eye of Ophidia in your deck? Did you think that, it would diminish your consistency on Kano top decks or whatever? And the guy's like, no, man, I just don't have that card.
Yeah.
And I think at that time it was like a $300 card or something that, you might just not want to put in your deck.
All right, we got round
But
2 of this game coming up here, and it looks like a double wolf pack from Phil.
hey, this time we are going to see a Quinlan ability actually doing something, but ironically it might actually be to Phil's disadvantage here, because Quinlan's ping means that unit is going to have 3 damage on it instead of 2, still has that shield to keep it alive, and because of grit, that means it's going to be swinging for 4.
And like you say, 4 into the base. Power of the Dark Side hitting one of the wolf packs. Anakin's Interceptor coming out as the answer. Or not an answer, but at least another space unit. Does Phil have
Yeah,
another one
more.
drop, or is he going to leave this resource hanging?
Another one drop would be cool here, as it would be able to knock the shield off of that Hylabon Enforcer, but it looks like we're just going to move on to the next turn. All right. Oh yeah, in chat here, someone mentions, I remember set 1 Sabine ran no legendaries. Yeah. And I think there are still, Sabine now is a big fan of Poe Dameron and of the Darksaber in a lot of these builds. So, Sabine is no longer a 0 legendary deck, at least the common composition is, but you do not necessarily need to have a bunch of legendaries to play Star Wars Unlimited competitively. There are some decks that don't need that.
So we're seeing the same line from Nick that we saw last game with Hylabon into Super Laser Tech.
Yep. I think the Super Laser Tech did come out a turn later this time, I believe. But overall, very similar. And once again, Phil is headed to space. There's that Qi'ra ping to activate the Super Laser Tech.
And Valiant coming out again as well for Phil. So we've got a buffed Valiant, an Anakin's Interceptor, and a Wolf Pack in space. With
Super Rider
Qi'ra and
O says,
Hylabon on the
I feel
ground.
like you can get away with General's Blade over Darksabers. Yeah, I do think that is quite possible now that set 3 came out.
I think I
In
like
set
that
2,
play.
there wasn't as good a substitution.
I think I like that
General's
play with
Blade is
General Blade.
arguably better.
Oh, yeah, arguably, yeah, because you get well, you don't always get the free one, but it's a 3 cost, and so you get the extra
Yeah.
one resource. So
Yeah, and
if your plan
additionally,
is to
there
go
are some
wide,
situations where you could do like Small Sabine turn 1, put General's Blade on her turn 2, hit him really hard. Not
right?
something you're going to want to do against a deck that runs Power of the Dark Side like Nick's deck here, but there are some matchups where that can be a pretty nasty start. Smarty B asks, why did he put his Super Laser Tech in his resources tapped? I believe Nick was shortcutting it there, so he had one resource left, and he used his last resource to use Kira's ability to kill the Super Laser Technician, at which point the Super Laser Technician becomes a readied resource, but I think he just represented that by bringing the Super Laser Tech in exhausted and leaving the other resource still standing.
On Phil coming out strong here, we've got Plo Koon entering the board and getting rid of Qi'ra,
Ooh.
leader.
Yeah, this time Kira is not going to have as much of an impact as she did last time. Plo Koon, maybe the most commonly played competitive card to use the new coordinate mechanic.
Nick responds with Lom Pike.
Lom Pike is pretty solid, but I'm not sure I like that play as much as I like Phil's Plo Koon here.
He ECL'd Lom Pike into Plo, but he got the shield off from the on attack before he hit Plo.
Yeah. Now I see what's going on there. Okay. Yeah, with the I like that play more when the ECL is kicking in there. Um, it shields the relatively unimportant Wolfpack fighter there, and the shield on Lom Pike means that Phil isn't going to be able to just clear him immediately with Tarkintown, as he would be able to in a normal ambush situation there,
Am I seeing
absent the on attack.
am I seeing this correctly? I see a Vader and a Palpatine's return. And I think
I
he
see
just
the
drew a second
Palpatine's
Vader.
return. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right, Endless. Those are two strong cards there in Nick's hand. Quinlan takes the field though and swings on in, and Nick's base is taking some real damage. We're at 18 damage on Nick's base, only 7 HP left. By
Yeah.
contrast, Phil here still has 12 HP remaining, I believe. And
If Phil has initiative with like Surprise Strike, he just wins off the Valiant.
yeah, if he let's see. Yeah, because he's on 6 resources with Nick on 7, so that Valiant Assault Ship's text is active and could close the game here, I believe. Nick
Nick
has
goes
the
he goes for
Nick has
Pershing.
the initiative.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick does have the initiative. He goes for Pershing.
Yeah, Pershing and chooses to damage his Hylabon Enforcer there. Ooh, he draws a Vigilance, which would be very nice in this situation. Can Phil close the game before Nick potentially plays that, though?
He goes in with the Interceptor. There's the Vigilance. So he'll defeat the Assault Ship, heal 5.
No, I think the Valiant Assault Ship did swing here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that was the Valiant. My bad.
Yeah, yeah. But I believe the damage was healed.
Yes, from Vigilance.
Hey, Emless, you got a fan here in the chat.
Oh, what's up?
Skoogla says, great to hear the best Star Wars Legion caster in SWU.
Oh, thank you, Skugla. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, I'm just broadening my interests here. I'm just doing the continue to do the casting
Ooh,
thing.
change of heart from Phil taking control of Long Pike. And Nick
Whoa.
scoops it up.
Yeah, that's lethal.
Spicy. Change of heart. That's a classic card from Spark of Rebellion. Not necessarily the most played legendary, but it can be very nasty in the right situation, as Phil just demonstrated.
Yeah, I like change of heart against these control decks that are trying to play units, not like
Yeah.
hard control, like Bosk Blue, for example. Change of heart is really good into these like soft control decks that play big stuff, like Vaders.
And even against the hard control deck, sometimes gaining control of an Avenger or whatever can be game winning.
Yes. And unlike choose sides, it doesn't rely on there being units on your side of the board present. So that single turn of control, was the game effectively. Love Change of Heart. It's one of the few set one legendaries I have no copies of.
Yeah, I'd have to organize my cards better to have a better sense of what set one legendaries I do and don't have. But it is one that has not necessarily been a staple for me. But in the right situation, it can be really good. A lot of those things that can take control of a unit or whatever can be powerful. All right.
Yeah, I was going to agree with something you said earlier, which is that Change of Heart on an Avenger can be backbreaking.
Oh yeah. Looks like they are shuffling on up as we're about to move to the third game of this match, and these players have maintained a nice pace of play. They still have 33 minutes left in the round, so they've done assuming a 55-minute round, which I think is standard. They've done about 11 minutes for the each of the two preceding games, and still have a good amount of time here for the final game of this match. That is one thing that I also like about Qi'ra compared to some of the harder control decks. Um, we were talking earlier, Endless, about how Qi'ra can kind of turn the corner quickly and be aggressive. But I think that one other cool thing about Qi'ra is just the games don't take as long as they would with like the Bosk Blue, the Iden Blue, those sorts of things.
Right, those decks that are going for mill strategies or um, waiting until 8 or 9 resources to really pull out the big stuff. The Snokes,
Yeah,
the Avengers.
I think if your game plan is to kill all the opponent's units until you can play Avenger, that is going to lend itself to a longer game than if you can start putting pressure on the opponent's base as early as 5 resources with Kira. And maybe even earlier, we've seen some real damage being kicked in by those Hylabon enforcers in these games.
Nick Nick drawing all 3 OBs in his starting hand. Mulligan, sir. Mulligan.
Yeah, he has. Man, that was a crazy hand. He had what, three overwhelming barrages, devastating gunships, super laser technician, resupply, or something.
Yeah,
It's
something like
like
that.
it's like arguably a playable hand.
Yes.
Like you gotta really lean on those barrages too, and the devastating gunship to take over the game though. And if the opponent has a fast enough start, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, he was actually like 1 or 2 cards off from a super good hand from the
Yeah,
nuts, basically.
yeah. If you swapped one of those 3 barrages for like a Hylabon enforcer or something, that would be that would potentially be a very strong hand.
Absolutely, because you had your ECL gunship line, you had your OBs, you had what was the third one? Super laser tech. You could kill yourself to accelerate OB.
Yeah, Lego Pizza agrees with us. I might have kept that hand, he says, and points out just ramp into gunship seems great in this matchup. Phil is super space heavy. Yeah, we have seen a really space focused uh, set of units from Phil in both of the first 2 games. We'll see if the trend continues here in game 3.
So we got Hylamon for Nick once more.
Anakin's Interceptor here for Phil. And Nick, once again, using Qi'ra's ability with that Hylabon Enforcer to get a 3-2 shield in on the first turn. And if Phil has a way to kill it, he will be able to get a card draw from that built-in bounty. But I'm not actually... Have any of those Hylabon Enforcers died in the previous 2 games? I'm not sure they
No,
have.
actually. No, they haven't. They've just lived. They've just been a really
Yeah,
solid 1-drop.
yeah, it's an extra good card if the opponent never kills it and takes advantage of its weakness.
Surprise
Surprise
strike.
strike from Phil. Pushes some extra damage, but that's not really what you most want to be doing on turn 2.
Nick drops a resupply and heroic resolve from Phil on the Anakin Interceptor.
Yes, that is a Nick. Nick is taking a look at the card there, I think. But Heroic Resolve is a 1-cost upgrade. It is Aggression Heroism. It gives +1/+1, and additionally, it gives you an unusual ability where you can pay 2 resources and defeat the Heroic Resolve to attack with +4 power and overwhelm. And if you do that, you no longer have the heroic resolve, so you don't benefit from the +1/+1 for the upgrade for that attack. You only have the +4 power from the text, but it can still be interesting. However, I think that Phil chose to play that after he made that surprise strike because it would be very bad to play it first and then get hit by Power of the Dark Side.
Right. He had to make sure that Power of the Dark Side wasn't coming. Nick tapped 3 for, or not tapped, but exhausted 3 for the resupply. He knew he was in the clear. He could then play Heroic Resolve onto the A-Wing, or sorry, not the A-Wing, the Interceptor. But
I do think Okay, so an X-Wing comes out. Now a Power of the Dark Side would not clear that buffed Interceptor. And I think there is a Power of the Dark Side in hand.
so it's interesting.
Nick
If you
look
have initiative, don't you just resolve the Heroic Resolve first? Like I'm not sure the logic there.
well, yeah, I mean you could pay the 2 and go in. It might be better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think that might be
Ian
better.
points.
Lego Pizza pointing out Kira flip
Yeah,
into gunship kills both.
yeah. So here's Qi'ra flip. He should get his. He should know what's coming.
You think Phil should get his value while he can? Yeah, I mean there's a lot of stuff
100%.
that would kill it now. So
Yeah,
overwhelming barrage on Qi'ra would kill both the space units. Devastating gunship could kill both the space units. If I'm Phil, I think I pay 2 and fire off the heroic resolve, and that is just what he does. So +4 for this attack. That's going to be 6 damage. It's a hard hit, but I think he is going to lose his stuff to this devastating gunship, and then Nick is going to be in a pretty commanding position.
yeah. Because now, not only do you get the gunship 2-for-1, you also have 2 units now that can do OB very effectively because the gunship will be at a 4-3 with the grit.
Yeah, it's a and now Phil, the pressure is on for Phil, with Nick being the only player with units on the board, being able to push a lot of damage here. I think the gunship is now swinging for 5, Kira's swinging for 4, and the Hylabon Enforcer there adding an additional 1 damage.
Oh, is gunship a
And
3-5? I thought it was a 2-5. Okay, it's a
I
3-5.
believe it is a 3/5 with grit. I might be wrong, but I believe it is a 3/5 with grit.
Tarkintown's the gunship. That's a
Yeah,
smart
it
move.
is a 3/5 with grit. So yeah, Tarkintown, that
Wow.
that is nice. And we could potentially see a Quinlan flip this turn, but still not a great board for Phil. It looked like Phil was going to flip Quinlan, but is maybe rethinking it. Plo Koon.
Plo Koon with no coordinate for 3 into
No,
Qi'ra.
but it's still a kill because he uses Quinlan's ability
Right,
to ping Qi'ra for 1.
right, because it's a 5 cost into a 5 cost.
Exactly right. So Plo Koon picking off Qi'ra here. Ooh, but Vigilance, I believe, probably to kill Plo Koon and heal 5. Not what Phil most wants to see here.
Yeah, and I mean Nick he looks poised to begin to run away with the game.
Yeah, Quinlan flips, but I have a feeling Quinlan's going to get hit by Power of the Dark Side next turn.
Yeah, either Power of the Dark Side or some big ambusher. Maybe Maul. I don't know if Qi'ra ECL runs Maul.
Yeah, Maul into Quinlan and putting the damage onto Hylabon Enforcer would be pretty nasty. It's looking like Nick is in a pretty good spot, but the let's see here. Both players swing into the base with the units there. Nick now has 9 damage on his base, 16 HP left. Phil has 13 damage on his base, 12 HP left.
Nick with OB
Um,
and Avenger in hand.
yeah, OB Avenger, and I believe he still has that Power of the Dark Side, which could pick off Quinlan here. Not looking great. Yep, there it
There it
is.
is.
Power of the Dark Side, and Quinlan is removed.
Yeah, I always feel with these red yellow hero decks that go for like a early mid or early mid game. I always feel
Ooh.
like, is that Armed to the Teeth?
Yeah,
I love that card.
Wolfpack Export, and I believe it is a smuggled arm to the teeth to buff it up.
I love Armed to the Teeth. Such a good card.
I don't think that Wolfpack Escort is necessarily going to get a chance to use it, though. We'll
No,
have to see, but well, maybe not. It looks like Nick is going to go with Kira's ability, buff up the Hylabon Enforcer. So Phil might get a chance to swing with that thing next turn. There's a top target thrown onto it, though, so that's potentially going to be some healing for Nick. And yeah, there we have the card highlight Arm to the Teeth, 2-cost aggression upgrade. It gives +2 power, and the attached unit gains on attack give another friendly unit +2 power for this phase. And additionally, Armed to the Teeth does have Smuggle, allowing you to play it from the resource row as Phil did, though it is more expensive.
does Armed to the Teeth work with things that let you attack out of sequence? So I guess
What do you
I'll
mean?
ask after the game's over. I'll ask again.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean this is a great setup. Top target is set up for, Avenger dropping and then destroying it, collecting the bounty. Oh, outmaneuver,
Outmaneuver
exhausting ground
exhausts the
arena.
ground arena. Phil's saving some 5 damage on his base, but
Oh,
Perilous
perilous.
Position taking out his buffed unit there, and the top target fires off to heal Nick's base for 4.
Oh man, womp womp.
Phil is far behind in this game now. He brings out his own built-in bounty unit, the Cartel Turncoat. Honestly, a very strong card. 1 cost 2/3 with a built-in bounty to allow the opponent to draw. But I think it's a little late for a unit like that.
OB going on to
Wow. OB just to kill that. It does also draw a card for Nick, I guess. Kind of a weird, overwhelming barrage, but might have been the best thing that Nick could do with his remaining resources there. How
that's
close are we to
likely.
seeing an Avenger? We must be pretty close.
Yeah, I think he's on 8 now.
Yeah, 8 and about to resource to 9. Okay. Did he resource his Avenger, though? I'm not seeing it in hand.
Yeah, did he resource it? What? Okay.
Huh.
I guess that's a play.
The Falcon taking the field here for Phil.
And gets
Another
perilous
perilous
immediately.
position. Kind of a weak play as perilous positions go, because Phil can simply choose to bounce the Falcon, but instead he's actually going to concede the game. It looks like all he had was upgrades, so maybe he was planning to buff up his Falcon, and the perilous position on it was enough to make him realize, oh, I'm not going to be able to buff this up and get the damage I need to win this race. I may as well scoop. So it's going to be a win for Nick.
Nice win, Nick, and good job from the Qi'ra ECL doing its thing.
Thanks for watching and supporting Maclunky Gaming. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.